Hello everyone and welcome back to viewer coaching. It's been a while since I've done this, but we're live on Twitch right now. I'm Cars12, by the way, playing against Givik. So today, Gevik, I think, sorry, I'm pronouncing it wrong. If this is your first time watching, basically what this is we're getting a sense of how people generally play, weed out their habits, see the things that they're struggling with, and help them to improve. So Gevik is a gold player from Brazil, so they are lagging quite a bit, who said they struggle with approaching. So I'm going to try and identify some of those habits and improve from there. Today, we're doing a bit of a special stream where we're only playing against gold players. Gold players is the most populous general range of players that actually stick with brawlhalla, that are active. And so if I can get a general sense of how gold people play, then hopefully I can give advice that applies to the most number of people. So the first thing I'm noticing with Gevik here, in that they are struggling to approach. That was an insane dare, by the way. If you chase dodge up, you live there. You can continue the edge guard. That was a great reaction. The first thing that I'm noticing in terms of approaching is this idea of only approaching with an attack. So I know I mentioned this in a lot of these videos. I also have a full video on that exact topic. But I think one of the main things that people really struggle with, especially at this gold rank, so if you're stuck in gold, something to consider is that approaching with movement should be your #1 priority rather than approaching with attack. So you'll notice I am playing quite differently than I normally do in these videos. And the reason for that is because I'm trying to get a sense of how you guys generally play without me like changing that or being too aggressive or anything like that. The thing I am noticing is that your approaches are kind of one note in that when you're walking forward, I can always predict that you're going to attack me pretty much, instead of doing something like maybe a dash in bait and then you're dodging. But like when you're moving in my direction, all I have to do is wait for an attack and then I can punish it and parry. So I presume that because you said you're struggling with approaching, you tend to struggle against people that are passive and parry. Wow, I missed a true combo there. So that is the #1 thing to consider is rather than only trying to attack when you're moving forward, attack after you've moved forward. I know it's a very subtle difference, but it's super important. So I'll do a quick demonstration here. So this is me attacking just moving forward, right? I see you in this range and I just keep attacking because I got to move into position in order to, or sorry, I'm moving into position with my attack, as opposed to the other way around where I'm moving in position in order to attack, like right there. Again, I miss true combos. I'm really terrible. I don't know why you should be taking advice from me. But the general idea is essentially you're setting yourself up for success rather than swinging and hoping it's successful. So that's the first thing I'm noticing. And again, given that you are playing from South America, it's a little bit difficult. Like right there, I presume you were lagging a little bit. That drop on the recovery was unfortunate. But yeah, that's the first thing I'm noticing. Now in game 2, I'll try and point out something else. I don't normally do this, but we're going to try game 2 on Brazil. My connection, as you can see, is pretty bad. There's a lot of delay here. But yeah, I just kind of want to get a sense of how you play without the lag, given that you were kind of eliminated by lag that time and stuff like that. But it does seem like a similar thing. Like if I'm just hopping around, I can kind of expect you to attack. So like even though I'm lagging, right, if I time it correctly based on when I think you're going to come in, I can release it and then still be safe. Like right there, for example, that's an example of going for a punish that you didn't necessarily have, but the reason why you went for it is because you're going for attacks rather than going for movement. So there's certain situations where you kind of have to forego a punish, give up punishes because you're not in position. And really the way to work around that is in the moment, you have to tell yourself, you know what, I'm not going to get this punish. What I have to do is just set myself up for success in the next hit or the next interaction. And then for the future, work on your movement so that when you're in that situation once again, you don't really have to worry about being in a bad position because you've already set yourself up and not locked yourself into frames where you weren't able to punish it. So me, for example, in that scenario where I missed that hammer sair, going for that nair, the only reason why I was able to get that nair is because I saired early, right? If I saired late, if I reacted to it late, or if I'm just automatically doing it, I'm locking myself into these frames where I can't do anything in between, right? I won't be able to punish. I'm not actually able to punish that that ensig because I was attacking already. Whereas if I'm moving first and I'm trying to get a read on your movement and my own movement, I'm paying attention to, okay, I'm weaving in and out. Instead of only moving forward, now I'm jumping a little bit, or I'm fast falling. I'm doing an empty hop, which is to say you're jumping and then not attacking immediately as you land. Yeah, I'm unable to dodge those strings, but hopefully you don't know that. It's basically like you want to create a scenario where you're going to be able to land a hit, or you're going to be able to land a punish instead of like I'm attacking all the time and the opponent happened to miss, but now because I'm attacking, like I don't have a chance to punish it, right? It's about being precise, it's about being intentional, and that's a huge thing that I noticed, and a big part of that is movement, because movement is one of the only things in brawlhalla that doesn't actually have a lot of lag, right? Like attacks, every time you attack, you're stuck in lag. Every time you dodge, you have a little bit of like movement where you're not invulnerable. Movement, on the other hand, moving left and right, you can do anything out of it. You can jump's only a 2-frame startup. Dash, you can act out of it almost almost immediately. So movement is really the thing you want to pay the most attention to in terms of being free and being able to punish stuff. So if we're talking about approaching, punishing people that are backing up, you want to push them into a corner. You want to make them think you're going to attack them, excuse me, and then attack them when they're vulnerable, right? So I'll give an example right here. I'm going to move forward into your zone, and rather than attack right away, okay, well, I lagged there, so it was a bit late. But you saw the general idea, which is that I was moving into your zone and then trying to attack from there. This music is extremely quiet. I think it just ended, though. I probably shouldn't have turned it up. I think you can kind of see the general idea, or hopefully you can. If not, it's definitely because I'm not explaining it well enough. But it's about moving into the danger zones. You can kind of think about every character as this big bubble of potential threat. And the threat is, or the threat that I like to consider, is the range at which you can react to moves, right? So generally speaking, that's a range of like a dash sidelight is the max range or something like that. Dash downlight depending on the weapon. But there's just the max range of something that's reasonable to react to. And you want to be in that range before you commit to an attack, unless we're talking about things like baits, but that's a little bit more complicated. But yeah, you want to be in that range before you throw in an attack. So make sure that's what you're doing, as opposed to just like throwing it out and hoping. Like that Sarah, for example, if I'm playing on a server with ping, I can just dash sidelight that because I'm in range for that, but you weren't in range. So make sure that your movement is the thing that you're focusing on, number one, if that's what you're struggling with. Gasolia just asked a great question in chat, so I feel like I should address it in here as well, which was that, like, ranked is very stressful, right? A lot of people have stress, and they asked, should I feel stressed when I'm playing, or should I be relaxed? And I think the answer is somewhere in between, right? It's a very individual thing. Right there, I'm going to interrupt myself real quick, is right there, I kind of saw that you're going for the weapon really hard, and you're making your intentions obvious. And that's also part of approaching, is you want to make your intentions not obvious, because if someone knows when you're going to attack, then they know how to jump, they know how to dodge it, and that's how you can get parried. But anyway, back to the point about stress and ranked is that generally speaking, it's a very individual thing, so I'm not really qualified to answer it, but stress will always be a part of high level play. And so you really want to learn how to play with your stress rather than just trying to avoid it entirely, because I think that would be, that's just not realistic, I don't think, because everyone is always stressed. It's just a natural human response. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just what happens when we play and when we're into stuff. And it just means that you care a lot, or something in your mind or body cares a lot. So yeah, I think being stressed about ranked is totally normal, and if you can learn how to play with it and not be totally afraid of it, or totally try and push it down, it'll help you out in the long run. So right there, I could have recovered you. I wanted to get a sense of what you would do when I enter your range. So something to consider when you're coming back on stage like that is, if I'm in this area with hammer, for example, you know that I'm going to try and dip below and recover you. So rather than just trying to make it back to the wall, you can make the wall your second priority and make attacking me your first priority. And so as you're falling, you could do something like a nair, something like a Sair. That's super effective. If you noticed in the very first game, actually, you did that dare when you're coming back to stage on Great Hall on the right side of the map. That's a great example of, I think you didn't have options, so it was your last resort, but yeah, even doing that when you have options is something to consider when you're coming back on stage. Now, I'm going to try and ledge trap you here on this last talk to get a sense of how you're coming back onto stage. Are you always attacking? Are you trying to come back to the lip? No, it actually looks like you're just trying to refresh your jumps, which is a good habit to have. I think your recoveries, in terms of like on stage versus off stage play, I think you coming back to stage is actually one of your strengths, because it seems like you're not just immediately trying to attack me as I'm just edge trapping you here, which is something that a lot of players tend to do. Now, this is a last stock orange situation, so it makes sense why you may be rushing to attack there. But generally speaking, in terms of approaching, in terms of coming back on stage, I think if you can take a look at what you do when coming back on stage and apply that more to your general gameplay, I think that'll help you out, because you tend to have a little bit more patience in that scenario than you do just hopping around the map. So that weapon toss, for example, fantastic mix-up. Right now I have to worry about that for the future. So yeah, I think generally speaking, one of your strengths is coming back to stage. So if you can take some of that gameplay, some of the thought process there, maybe slow down in the moment when you're on stage a little bit, because it seems like when you had some time to think, you were able to problem solve and work through stuff. If you can try and do that, maybe look at your replays, and then in the moment in the match when things are faster, you'll be able to pull from some of those things like in the moment when it goes by quickly. But I apologize for the lag. Thanks for coming on stream. I appreciate it. Make sure to say thank you and claps in chat for Gevik, and I'll see you in the next one.